everybody, and welcome to Facebook Live. It's a bit later than usual this week due to things beyond my control. So let's get into it as usual. So this week I'm talking about things that can hinder us. So I did put a hint in the description to say it's all about stuff. So stuff that can build up over years. In fact, we can accumulate an awful lot. It's very overwhelming at times. It can even be suffocating because feel so restricted by it. But at the same time, it's also familiar and comfortable to be, to have this stuff. And that familiarity can keep us trapped. And when we're trapped, it can become a vicious cycle. It can be positive and it can be negative. And if we want to progress and grow into a new life, particularly if you're feeling, no, something's got to change here, something's got to give, then creating some space. And I'm not just talking about physical space, but also mental space. That's what we're going to need to do to allow us to be not so overwhelmed, not so suffocated, and to allow us some space that we can move on. We can move on a bit further in our lives. So, what do I mean by stuff? Is the first thing I'd say to you is, well, it's all the physical things, negative people, our own negative thinking, anything like that can be very emotionally and draining and overwhelming, and that's what we need to start to learn to let go of. But that can be hard. It can be very overwhelming to let go of things, even physical things. They can become emotionally attached to them. They can become a comfort zone in and of themselves, physical things. But even having people who are negative towards us can be comforting, even though they can be so draining. Our own thinking, it's a habit. So again, we're familiar with it. So to actually let some of this go can be very hard. It can be emotionally overwhelming to do that, not just physically overwhelming to do it. So I'd always say, as always, we want to build awareness first off, but we also too want to start small. With anything, it's far better to start small, tackle just one item at a time, one thought at a time, one person at a time, rather than try and do too much too soon, become overwhelmed, and then we'll just stop. We'll just get too overwhelmed even more and be more stressed and that, and we just won't be able to do anything. We become frozen again. So clutter, whether it be mental clutter or whether it's, as I said, it's people or physical things, can have huge impacts on our mental and physical health, because it's going to impact your self-confidence. Lack of self-confidence, your anxiety and risk of depression go up. There's health and safety issues, particularly around physical stuff. Our stress levels go up. You just have to stop and think about these things. Your own thinking can cause your own stress levels to go up, as can all these energy drainers. Huge amount of time is wasted and energy is drained dealing with all this stuff. All three of them, all three types. Our sleep and our relationships are also impacted. So you have to stop and think, it's time now to let some of this go, because it is hindering you. It is hindering you, whether you will admit that or not. So, maybe that's your first step, is say, okay, where is it? Which one of the three areas do I really need to tackle? Which would make the biggest impact on my life? If I was to tackle them, maybe it's just one individual person that you need to start minimizing contact with. Maybe it is just picking, one item at a time out of a room and either donating it, recycling it in some way, reusing it. Maybe it's not in the right place, but letting it go. Or maybe, you want to tackle one thought or one core belief at a time and deal with it, and that would make a big impact. So just pick one area and one thing in that area. So let's look at them. Tackling physical clutter. Our belongings, as I said, there's emotion attached to even a couch or sofa, a chair, a table. It can have emotional. It doesn't have to be pictures or jewelry or anything personal to have physical, to be physically attached to it, emotionally attached to it. So, it's hard to let go of these things. But having some maybe organizational pointers can help, and that's maybe I'll give you some of those now. And think about starting small, as I said. Think about picking only one item a day if it's very emotionally overwhelming to do this. Decide maybe on which room you're going to tackle first. I personally would start with my bedroom, because that's where your sleep is impacted, and that can have such a negative cycle on your thinking, on your physical health. So, if you've got clutter in the room, in your bedroom, that's the place I would look at first. And then again, if you feel, no, my home is too overwhelming, I just cannot go in there, I can't deal with that room. That one room we have where the junk goes into, or maybe that's one cupboard that we have all the junk in, maybe it's just too overwhelming. Then start with your car. Start somewhere to get the momentum going. Your car is one place you can start. Your office desk, if you have one, is another place to start. If you've got a locker in your place of work, start with your locker. Start somewhere small, that doesn't feel as overwhelming to tackle, and get your momentum from there. But make sure that you have everything you need as well before you start to declutter. So a box and a bag to empty in things into, to maybe one for recycling, and one that's it's going to be donated, or one for somewhere else, that you're going to get rid of the stuff. But make sure, even if there's only one item in it, that you empty that box or bag each week. Don't have it lying around. If you have paperwork you need to get rid of, then make sure you shred it first, and you deal with it appropriately. Maybe if it's for larger pieces of furniture, the first thing you might do would be to get a name and a contact number for somebody who deals with recycling furniture. That can be sold on. Perhaps you want to do that yourself. Maybe you want to recycle it, or maybe there are charities that will take stuff for free. So maybe that's your first thing you'll do if you know there are items that you want to get rid of, and it's large pieces of furniture, that you will just get that person's name and contact details. The other thing you need to do is set some time aside in your planner. Allocate 5 minutes even. Set that timer on your phone. Go for it for 5 minutes, and then whatever you get done in that 5 minutes, leave it. I've done that. I often do that during the year when I know the office is gotten a little bit overwhelming and things have just been left and haven't been properly sorted. I will set a timer on my phone for 10 minutes, and whatever I get done in that 10 minutes for that day, it's done. And then the next day I'll do 10 minutes more, or 5 minutes more, whatever I can spare, and get it sorted. And over the course of the week, it's amazing how much clearer and decluttered the room can get, just with those few minutes spent on doing that. The other thing is, as you're decluttering, think about reviewing the space. What would keep the place tidy? What would make, if it's your bedroom, what would make it more conducive for a good night's sleep? Maybe you need a new mattress. Maybe you need new pillows. Maybe it needs to be warmer. So think about that. The other thing to think about, because even our physical clutter is so emotionally attached, we have so much emotional attachment to it, that you might think of engaging with somebody else, a friend, somebody who's positive, but somebody will also tell you the way it is. They'll tell you. There'll be a good sounding board to talk to about this thing. The next area would be your thoughts. This is another area you can pick. As I said, only pick one area and one thing within that area to tackle at a time. So it's equally as it's equally as important as any of the other areas I'm talking about today, but our thoughts are often overlooked, especially our unconscious beliefs, but they can have such an impact on us, and tackling them can help improve our mental and physical health. We're holistic beings, so whatever we do physically or whatever we do mentally we will have an impact on the other. Again, keep it simple here. Build your awareness first, always with looking for patterns in our thinking, looking at your core beliefs. It's about a building awareness. I've talked about looking at your thought patterns before. So, try to identify one negative thought at a time, or even one pattern of thinking at a time. So, you know, what type of thinker are you? So using that journal will help you. You are better off writing it down, but I understand that people, you know, for one reason or another don't like doing that. A Word document, you don't have to worry about the spellings on that, or just recording it. But as long as you can review it, that's the important part, because when we can review it, we can actually highlight the patterns, similar thoughts together that lead to a particular core belief, and that's what we're going to be, you know, looking for. You can highlight those patterns, and it's important. So, you know, which one of the following thought patterns maybe do you fit into? Now, these are in the blog in more detail. I'm just going to call out, you know, 4 different types, very general, but do go and check out the blog, because I do give you more detail on these. And I leave, as always, always leave the blog, the link to the blog in the description below. So the worrier, you know, the worst case scenario, the what ifs, the critic, always putting yourself down, you know, I'm so stupid kind of thinking, the perfectionist, you can't make mistakes, the victim, everything in life is beyond your control. So would you fit into one of those? Would that thought pattern fit into one of those? Would that thought fit into any one of those? So the whole idea here is about building awareness first to see, can you identify the thought pattern? And that's all you're doing. It's a step, a small step. One thought pattern is one small step you can take. And then once you've identified what that is, you can, you know, see, the next step would be to see how that's actually impacting or affecting your behavior, because it will be, your own emotions, and your physiological responses. Where are you holding that thought in your body? You know, because if that thought is leading you to be more stressed or anxious, or if it's leading you into depression, you're going to be holding that somewhere physically in your body. You may have upset stomach, you may have tension in your shoulders, you know, you may be feeling angry all the time. You gotta look and see, where is it? I've talked about the hot cross bun model before, you know, so we're looking at our thoughts, our behaviors, our emotions, and our physical responses, and they all are interlinked. You know, it's not a cycle, it's all crisscrossing all over one another. So, you know, to see where it is, and then once we can see once we can see the pattern as it's laid out, with that thinking, and once we can see the behaviors that are associated with it, and the emotions that are associated, and the physically, how we're holding it physically in our body, how it's manifesting physically in our body, we can then also start to challenge it. We can start to change maybe our behaviors. We can start to do something, but challenging it, even just basically challenging that thought, to then rewrite that automatic tape that's in our head, is vital. That will be kind of towards a final step. And the third area would be to delete negative people. That would be, the third area you could tackle. You know who they are, the negative people in your life. They're the ones that never seem to have anything good to say. They always talk about their own problems, or they're always gossiping about other people. You can't count on them. You know, you feel like the life and soul has been drained out of you, at times when you're around these people. So now it's time to reevaluate. You know, how do you interact with them? Are you willing to delete them or minimize contact? Again, highly emotive area to deal with, but they are hindering you. They are impacting you. Again, go back to that model, the hot bun model. They're impacting your thoughts. They're impacting your behavior. They're impacting your emotions. They're impacting how you know, your physiological, your body. So you gotta think. Okay, is it me or them? Can I minimize contact with these people at the very least? If I can't get rid of them. So again, start small. Tackle one person at a time, and sometimes it's easier to tackle the people that are furthest away from us, furthest away from the circle of trust, which I've talked about before. So we're in the center of the circle of trust, and then those that are closest to us, our partner, our kids, our closest family and friends, and then maybe further out other friends, other family members, and then further out, you know, maybe work colleagues that aren't friends, etc., etc., neighbours, acquaintances, you know, people you deal with on a regular basis would be way out there. But if they're very negative, maybe it's easier to deal with those that are out here rather than the ones that are in your tighter circle of trust. So again, I would, get out my journal. I've given you some questions that you can check out in the blog, that you can, have a think about. Again, think security, keep it away from prying eyes. But basically, what you're doing is you're assessing everybody that's in your life. You're making a list, just like Santi. I know he'll be here a few months time. But you're making a list, and you're saying, well, who is it? Who are these people? How are they impacting me? Take your time over this. It's not a race. You're just building your awareness. You're not taking any other step other than realizing what's going on in your life. Think about the people that are entering your life on a daily basis, a weekly basis, family, friends, work colleagues, neighbours, everybody you interact with on a regular basis. Are they soul enhancers? Are they positive for you? Are they supporting you? Are they part of your positive support system? Or are they negative vampires? They suck the life and soul out of you. Again, you want to be looking at minimizing, as I said, minimizing contacts with those who don't support you and encouraging those that do. Making the time for those people that are in your positive support network. And I know, as I said, for practical reasons we can't sometimes cut out people in our lives, but we can decide how much contact we have with them. Even with work colleagues, we can start to minimize, and put in a buffer. Email then face to face is better maybe, or avoiding, if they're always in the kitchen gossiping in work, then avoid the kitchen area. It's difficult, but you can do it when you stop and think. But right now, the first step, as always, is just building your own awareness. If you can delete where you can. And I know that's difficult, but you've got to say, it's for my own sanity. That's what it's about. It's about my own sanity here. It's about my own physical health as well. So, maybe stop taking the phone calls every day or every time they ring. Stop meeting up with them. You can be busy. And I do know that's easier maybe with some family members than it would be with work, but you can do it. It is possible, if you have your excuses ready. Always have your excuses ready. And fill that time instead with the positive supporters, because you just simply then won't have time to meet with these negative people, or deal with them. You just don't have time, to be a brief conversation, a brief interlude, or give me the facts, I'm really in a hurry, I have to go and do this. That's it. And if they're gossiping and things like that, you don't have to deal with that. I'll get back to you later. I don't have to deal with that. I can't deal with that right now. I have to go and do this. Or have an excuse. Think about your excuses. So that's it. 3 areas that you might want to, think about. As I said, awareness is always our first step, and then acceptance. This is where I am right now. And then we take action. But remember, awareness and acceptance are always action steps. We have a tendency to skip acceptance because we don't see it as an action step, but it actually is a good action step to take. I'll leave it there. I will talk to you next week. I'm trying to think. Sorry, a bit ahead of myself. I was thinking it was the bank holiday weekend. Not. But I would see you all next Friday then, as usual. There will be a new blog out on Monday. And have a good week. Stay safe and enjoy your week. Thank you.